There we go. All right, so that was 40, what?
3?
43 asteroids?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so
Because wouldn't it keep going because, unless that outside force, such as gravity,
Right.
pulls it in a different direction, or friction, that would stop it, or hit it and bump it in a different direction, so wouldn't that be considered inertia?
Inertia is not a motivator to move, it's just the property that we give it, that things want to, by nature, want to travel at a constant velocity, constant speed, constant direction. And if that doesn't change, it's just the natural order of things. So you don't need anything to keep it moving. And so we had to label a property of that, and that's what we labeled as inertia, is the tendency of an object to do that. But inertia is not a force or a motivator, it's just the name we give to the fact that nothing is needed to keep something traveling at a constant velocity in the absence of other forces. So you were making the argument that inertia should be the answer?
Yeah, because I thought that's the first law, is that it either stays in place or it is constant in movement in one direction unless an outside force acts upon it.
I would argue that, I'm trying to think of a good analogy. What is escaping me right now? All right, I'm gonna try this one out. The label that has been assigned to you is Yvette. Does that label cause you to do anything? Does it get you up in the morning? It's that type of thing. It's just, to me, inertia is just a label that we give to this property that is a tendency of an object to maintain its velocity. But in terms of, so we don't have to do anything to keep something moving. That's the best I can come up with at the moment. It's almost a semantics issue that we're talking about here. I think if you say that inertia keeps it going, it makes it sound like inertia is being applied to it. And that might not be the way you're thinking about it.
No, it's not.
Okay.
I'm just thinking of Newton's first law.
Yeah.
Is what applies here, I think.
Yeah, agreed.
So we could put Newton's first law and that would be right, or do we still need to put nothing?
I think if you wrote, so what keeps it moving, then you wrote inertia. I probably would go back and forth on that one if you wrote that, or, I mean, Newton's first law to me is the same.
Yeah.
I mean, again, Newton's first law is our observation of the property. It's not like Newton's first law was written and suddenly things abated.
Yeah.
So it's our description of it, not the cause of it. Honestly, if you wrote down inertia or Newton's first law for that, I'd go back and forth on it and depending upon my mood. If the first 5 I graded are absolutely horrible and completely off the mark and I come across that, I'd be going, okay, at least I know something about this, okay. If the first ones were perfectly worded and suddenly I get that, I'm thinking, nah, she could have done better.
Okay.
And then I'd probably go back and look at the first 5 just to see, all right, they say the same thing. It's a whole thing. Sorry if that was not a satisfying answer, but
No, I'm just
that's where I am right
wondering.
now. Other questions? Yes, Manaya.
Can you briefly talk about the difference between dynamic, mechanical, and static equilibrium?
All right. Mechanical equilibrium, acceleration is 0, or total force is 0, or the velocity is constant. So mechanical as opposed to chemical equilibrium or whatever biology equilibriums there are. In physics, we just call that equilibrium. I guess Hewitt was trying to differentiate from the others. In terms of static versus dynamic, equilibrium means that the velocity is constant, along with acceleration being 0 and total force being 0. So constant velocity does not mean an object is moving or not. It just means the velocity is staying the same, whether it's 0 or not. So dynamic equilibrium, the speed is not 0. Static equilibrium, it is 0. The speed is 0. It's just sitting there.
And the velocity is 0? The velocity and the acceleration is 0 for static equilibrium.
Yes, for static equilibrium.
And then dynamic is, it is moving, but it's a constant velocity and acceleration, or one or?
Well, acceleration, a constant velocity, which means the acceleration is 0,
Okay.
a constant 0. Until someone outside force comes in.
And then mechanical is just. the-
As opposed to chemical equilibrium or equilibrium is a term that is used in many things, not just physics. Mechanical equilibrium is trying to differentiate this equilibrium from equilibrium that you might run into in chemistry or biology or whatever.
Okay.
It's what I refer to as just equilibrium in physics, because I usually don't think about the other ones. As you should too. Unless you're taking those classes. Other questions?
Going back to that, one that she was talking about what Keith said moving.
Yep.
The answer was nothing?
Right.
Okay.
Oh, that was it?
Yeah.
Okay. One of the issues that some students run into in that is this idea that all things start at rest. So if everything starts at rest and you see it moving, then it's very egocentric, but you're making the assumption that there was something applied to it in order to get it moving to start with. But in physics, it is a non-zero probability that if I see a car zipping by, looking out the window, see a car zipping by, it's possible that car did not exist. It just came into existence already moving. So the past, we don't know about. So we cannot assume, it's like a ball being thrown into the air. If the problem starts with the ball in the air, the throw is irrelevant. How it got into a situation is not part of the problem. We take things as is presented at that moment. I've heard it attributed to more than one physicist, but some say the future is more certain than the past. Because I can make that prediction, but how things got to that is very hard to do. Other questions? All right, let's get this done. All you need is a calculator if you need to, although I think the math on this is, you don't necessarily need one. But when you're done, bring it up. I'm putting it face down or out of habit, you don't have to wait till everybody has it to begin. If anyone needs to borrow a calculator, find one for you. That's two or three.
Have to do all of them?
Well,
No, I'm sorry.
I figured if you want to share with her, but you want him to do yours?